Hello, and welcome to the Path of Most Persistence. This is a place where we hear and share tenacious stories of overcoming obstacles with our partners who dare to share a bit of their own personal paths. Cynthia Olvera has served Texas A&M University for over 20 years, first as a student affairs professional and now as an assistant director in the Division of Risk, Ethics, and Compliance. Cyn's area of compliance is specific to university youth programs, where she helps faculty, staff, and student organizations navigate the rules and regulations that help to keep youth safe and engaged while visiting Aggieland. Cyn, hi there. Hi. Thank you so much for being with us today. It's such a pleasure. We met not so long ago, at least directly. Your influence has been extremely important in all that we do. It's influenced all that we do. We'll get to that. But it wasn't so long ago that we actually did face-to-face meet because of COVID and the like. Yeah. But it's been such an honor and a pleasure to have an opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you so much. I've got a lot of relationship where it started on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
We had that whole COVID and I got to have a lot more reach, and so being able to meet you in person was a delight too.
Oh,
so thank you for coming out. I think it was a training, right? We met at a training.
Yeah.
Engineering was hosting a big group training, which is my favorite way to do that.
Yes.
Just because everyone sometimes will have similar questions, and it's much easier because everyone in the room benefits from the singular question, right?
Yes.
I get to reach more people.
I want to get into that. I want to get into that training. But let's, for the audience, I want to get into your specific position. But firstly, can you just tell me about the Division of Risk, Ethics, and Compliance?
Yeah, sure. It's a wonderful division that encompasses a lot of pretty serious topics. I mean, we've got the Title IX office and CREI. We've got our Clery Act friends. We've got our privacy friends. When you think about the things that govern an institution at the federal or state level, we handle a lot of it. And sometimes I think compliance folks get a bad rap, right? We're the gotcha people. And what I'm thankful for is that under Kevin's leadership, and now we've got Lisa Aiken.
Yes.
Yeah, she's taken over. Kevin just retired. And these are really wonderful people in terms of their philosophies.
Yes.
The Division of Risk, Ethics, and Compliance, the people themselves are really invested in not just what does the rule say, right? You can be rules people, but I'm really thankful to work in an environment where it's about what's the right thing to do? What's the right thing to do in Aggieland specifically? So we'll pay attention to national statistics, and we're paying attention to the laws, litigation, legislation, and all those things. But at the core of our division and all of our offices is the people in our charge, in our care,
Yes.
and doing the right thing. So, yeah.
And as far as the direction that you all take, as far as the governance, the policies that come, is most of that driven from the federal government, then the state, and then the particular philosophies of the university?
Yeah, all across the board. Everything you just said, and everything's got its little place. It's like a puzzle, right?
Yes.
And I always used to joke around because, you know, the federal law will be here, right?
Yes.
In which case the state says, well, I don't ever want to be outside that federal space,
Yeah.
so I'm going to bring my rule up here. It raises it a little
Yes.
bit, right?
Yes.
And then, so as the state says, okay, well, then here's our laws. And then the institutions will say, well, we don't want to be in non-compliance with the state or the federal, so we're going to put our rules and regulations up here. And we've got system in there too, and then it's the school. So it's funny because often people will tell me, be like, well, that's not what the law says. Well, the law is something we never want to be close to, so we're over here. That's right, it's a baseline. And even with my own rule, the university rule for CPMs, Campus Programs for Minors, even with that rule, it really just seeks to be a minimum, right?
Yes.
So if in your program, you know this is the minimum, but your specific space or your specific population or any of those things, you need to do more than the minimum.
Right.
So it's always this little ladder.
Yes.
And that's why it's so important to go back to the heart of, my boss likes to call it the spirit of the rule.
Yes.
What does the spirit of the rule tell us?
Yes.
And so that's been driven into me, and that's where what's the right thing to do in your program? That's where that comes from. Yeah.
And I know sometimes being in a position that you are, and your whole division and your department, but even professionally, I just appreciate the fact that sometimes when you're in that position of telling people the rules, the policy, it can be interpreted as, I got you. Well, rather, it's about, I got you trying to keep you safe. I'm trying to help you not be gotten.
That's how I view my role, is a support. I'm a team member. I'm trying to have you be the most successful and keep these youth as safe as we can in our spaces. So it's really, even when I do site visits, the notes I take are going to be equal. I'm going to find the good things, because here's the thing, and I've been saying this for a hot minute now. At Texas A&M, we truly do things well, and we do them right. 98% of the time, right? But no one ever talks about those things.
Well, because this is a system of humans, right? So that's that 2%.
And it drives me batty. So I really want us to start telling our story a little bit better, because we're getting a lot of things right. And yes, we're not perfect. We're going to get a few things wrong. But when I'm out there and we're looking, unless it's a very, and this is, knock on wood, very rare, if someone's in danger or something's not safe or whatever, those are very rare circumstances, thank goodness, because everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing. So it's not, I don't really have to gotcha a whole lot, thankfully.
Exactly. And also, because, you hear so much in the news and people choosing perspective, but it's even if being people in the organization or the department, it's not your place to decide if you like it or not. It's your place to
follow. To follow the rules.
To guide, to share, to teach, instruct, train.
All of the things. I also think following the rules, or when they're doing that, it's accountability, right? It's accountability to we understand what the policies and the rules are, but in my opinion, you can't hold someone accountable if they don't know.
That's right.
So that's why we had such a huge push for, what does the rule say now? What are the new trends? What are we seeing in terms of incidents and those sorts of things? You have to educate folks first. They have to know.
That's right.
And then you can come back in and say, okay, let's gradually get better.
Right.
And I think that's been the tale for now 5 to 6 years, where we've truly been pushing the education. Understand, this is the word I use, the words I use is, understand your risk responsibility.
Yes.
What are you supposed to be doing? If you choose to work with youth, then that comes with some responsibility. And so just helping them kind of educate those on what it is to meet those responsibilities. So that's a joy for me, by the way.
As we begin to pivot to your specific position and your responsibilities and tasks, I just want to say, being in a position of leadership for many years, and just my own personality, being a mother, I really truly appreciate boundaries, laws, policy, and understanding them to keep people safe. And it's not always easy disseminating that information, enforcing that information, but at the end of the day, it really does give those for whom are receiving the information or will be protected or even benefit from that training a sense of security. And sometimes it's not articulated so much, but it's that environment, it's that sense, it's that atmosphere, and that attitude that connotes, no, we care. And this may feel harsh to you or feel like another responsibility or another step, but at the end of the day, we care about what you do in your programming, and we want to keep everyone safe so that you can continue.
Nailed it. Nailed it 100%.
Well, just because I understand that language very, very much. And like I would always tell my own children and students in the past, that it's not about, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And because there's a rule there, it's you have to go, at least when you first learn about it, or a policy, that it's there for the good, not so much to hurt you or to prevent you from being the best you can be or having fun.
No, we're not the fun police.
Right.
I think also when I send an email or you get that first notification from me and they're like, oh, there's this person, I have been told multiple times that, and then they meet me. And they're like, oh, she's nice.
Yes.
I'm not scary. Compliance isn't scary, and it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
The rules don't have to be scary or overwhelming. I think our rule in general is built not to be overwhelming, right? It's specifically built to help. But I just think it's so funny because I've been told that a whole lot. Like, oh, she's great. We can work. Yeah, we'll work together. So, and that's my favorite thing. It's being able to build relationships that do what you just said. Keep an environment safe for youth.
Okay, so let's pivot to your position as an assistant director. What does that mean? What do you do?
What do I do on a day-to-day basis? I like to say that I support the efforts of faculty, staff, and student organizations as they navigate all of the different laws and rules and regulations, because each of the things that we do or require for programs to do isn't in itself difficult, each of the parts. There's just a whole lot of them.
Yes.
There's a lot of moving deadlines and different, so we build resources and we help support. So honestly, what I do day to day is I'm answering the phone, I'm answering emails, I'm reviewing documentation that's submitted, I'm directing the Agatha Scales. Shout out to Agatha, you're a rock star. She's wonderful. I can't do what I do without her. She runs all of our technology front, and so in this day and age, we have to have resources and just things that are going to help people be successful in navigating this rule of ours and all the laws. So that's what I do. I'm a people person, and so my assistant directorship is just literally supporting all of these folks who have decided to work with youth. Now here's the thing, so it's me and Agatha, and we've got main campus, we've got the Galveston campus, we've got the med school, the vet school, and the law school. So anytime any of our faculty, staff, or student organizations choose to work with youth, we're helping them follow the rule, navigate, get insurance. Are you getting background checks? Or are you doing all the things that we know are required but also are good to keep you safe? So it's quite a lot. It's a lot, but it's also wonderful and rewarding to know. A long time ago, I made a decision that I wanted to have a job that made a difference. And I've really stuck to that. I need to feel like I make a difference and impact some way, either in support or in something. And I feel like in some small way, I am making a difference for youth. And that's what drives me,
I love all of that. Now, I'm going to take a moment. You acknowledged Agatha being that person you couldn't do without. So I'm going to take a moment and acknowledge Adriana, because it's she and I doing all the things, and I could not do all that I or NPI does without Adriana. So I need to do that.
Good.
But with all you and Agatha do, all of the institutes, all of the campuses, all of the staff and faculty and students, how do you organize? How do you prioritize, organize? You can talk about a day or just overall how you structure. I'm sure a lot of that is cyclical.
Yes.
But how just do you organize and prioritize?
Depends on the time of year, so let's just be fair.
Yes.
A mentor of mine long ago said, you can do everything, you just not going to do it all at one time, right? So you've got to be cognizant of your time of year. The youth program year runs March to March. So we are coming into now, we've just started our season. So February was nuts. So I'm not as organized as I wish I could be, because now I'm getting the last minute folks. But the way we look at our year is we've got March through August, right? And so I know what I'm going to be doing there normally is going to be site visiting, finishing up approvals, reviewing documentation, making sure everything that we're using, that parents are signing, or any of those numbers of things are in place and built into registrations, and doing all those things. In the fall, I'm going to be doing lots of trainings and meetings and building resources. And the lucky thing is everyone needs the same things, basically.
Yeah.
So if I make a resource for the engineering folks, that is still going to be okay for my Kohl's friends, right? And so it's about sharing. Don't just leave it over here. Make sure I'm sharing it so that everyone has access to those resources, or they know that the latest waiver needs to be updated for XYZ. So that's that first level, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's only foundational possible if you really understand our rule. So I do a lot of homework. I look at trends, just making sure that I have that foundational stuff. And then it's by school and unit, right?
Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter is engineering is not going to do it the same way that athletics is doing it.
Right.
Or that, Kohl's is doing it. Or my business school friends, everyone does it a little differently. And so you have to build relationships. I think that's also key, is that the relationship building allows me to understand how they're programming. And in which case I can go, oh, well, you can tweak this document this way so it's better fit for your youth and for your programs. So it's by school and unit, time of year, school and unit, and then within each school, college, unit, or department or whatever, it gets really into the micro for needs of the youth, right? Student organizations is a whole other, animal, because they're usually doing weekend programs or day programs, and so it's a graceful mental gymnastics, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how I keep organized.
Okay, so just one more level of that on the practicality of it all. Do you keep a checklist? I'm just interested as a person, because I live and die off of checklists. I get such a thrill of,
I love that.
But so just on the day-to-day, even within your cyclical responsibilities, there's a day-to-day. How do you just stay on top of that, you and Agatha?
So it's so funny. So her office is literally around a corner from me.
Yes.
So we're regularly on FaceTime, even though she's just down the hall from me. So we keep each other on. We're each other's best cheerleaders, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
have to be.
That's number one. Constant communication with Agatha. Like, you have to.
Yes.
I am a big list maker. So I have 4 lists. I have today, what I need to do today. I have what I need to do this week. And then I have 2 big month boards. And one is a priorities board, and one is a here's the big picture board. And so that'll have major meetings, major trainings. If I have to finish writing a policy, or if I have to help someone review something someone submitted, they just kind of move. I'm starting to need a new board, though. The dry erase is starting to get a little dark, but that's how we do it. And I love that feeling too. I don't know what it is. I'm the person that'll write it down just if it wasn't already on the list.
Oh my goodness, yes. Because I accomplished something today. I did that extra. Yes, yes.
I tried using the Outlook list. Did you know there's a task list where you can literally, it'll strike it out? It's not the same.
No. And I just attribute that to myself because of my years, that I get such a joy out of actually scratching.
That's good. It doesn't,
Yeah.
You see the strikeout happen, but there's no, I just can't.
The physicality of it.
Need to have it. So, yep, I keep lists. And I use fun pens. I will put that on the table. I have a rainbow pen, I have a teddy bear pen, I have a little, it's my new one, it's a little fake diamond, a huge diamond.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, I have to have fun pens. That helps with the mojo.
So just one more question in line with this topic. So were you born this way? Was it thrust upon you, or did you adapt because of the necessity of your environment?
Some of it is intrinsic, but I think the majority of it, shout out to the Army brats out there. So I grew up in the Army. My dad was in the Army for many years, and we moved around a lot, as any military family will tell you. And so I got really good at making friends, right? Because you have to truly, you get plopped into your 3rd elementary school in 5 years. You got to learn to make friends. And so that foundationally shaped my relationship building, right? I love people. And I love helping people. So I think that's also foundational. In terms of the organization, again, in an Army home, it's regimented. There are things you have to do. There are rules you follow. There are,
Structure,
right? And the funny thing is, as we've grown up, I've got 2 siblings. I got 2 younger brothers. We were comparing notes the other day, and it was hilarious. So I'm in risk and compliance. My dad's an OSHA compliance consultant now. My other brother is in environmental health and safety.
Okay. Yeah, there's a trend.
And my other brother was in the Army. He's been in the Army. He's going to retire in April. We're very excited. So it's just so funny. So I say some of it is intrinsic, but a lot of it was nurture where I'm concerned, and that had to do with the military upbringing.
Well, I appreciate and thank your whole family for their service, because it means so much to so many. I truly respect that. But let's talk a little bit about that people person that you are. So you talked a little bit about, being a child, an Army brat, but Cyn, I don't have to tell you, relationships can be draining, even in the best of ways. Even when you enjoy a relationship, it takes time. It takes, for true, collegial, familiar, whatever the relationship is, it takes time to have a healthy, good relationship. Now, firstly, I want to ask you how you do that professionally. How do you, with all, again, the staff, faculty, but how do you also do that personally, if you want to talk about that?
So there are two things that I would point out. Number one, it's trust building. So consistency is key, right? If I promise you something, I have to deliver, and I have to do that consistently for you to understand, like, oh, she is here for me. That's a thing, right? So that, I think, is pivotal for that situation. I do also want to point out that I fail. Sometimes I fail.
You are human.
Right? I am human. And so maybe I wanted to get this email out and I didn't get it when I wanted to, or maybe literally I just forgot to send a text that I was supposed to, I also fail. And I think within that failure, how you fix it also matters. And
Yes.
so when I apologize sincerely, and then I fix it. And that too is consistent. So I'm going to get it right a bunch of the times, but please know that there is no perfection in my world. There's no such thing. There's only excellence. And so I can be excellent at something,
Yes.
but I'm not going to be perfect.
Well, because you are human, and that leans to the topic of grace, having grace for yourself, having grace for others, and asking others to have grace for you.
That's right.
In those moments when there is that trust that this was my intent, but sometimes we just can't for whatever reason.
I'm very thankful that I've got several program directors who can speak to that. They'll call me up and be like, oh my gosh, I forgot XYZ and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like, just breathe. We've got 99% of your stuff done. We'll give you a little grace for this. There are a couple of deadlines that I have the authority to give grace on, and I do that as much as I possibly can because it's hard out there. There's a lot going on right now in the world and in these programs and even on our campus the last couple of years, so much transition and change and, a lot of times our program directors, this is a tertiary thing that they're doing. I mean, they're faculty first and they're leaders and they're doing all these things. So out of the goodness of their heart, they're putting on a youth program. Well, I understand that in the bigger majority of their work, it's not going to be their primary responsibility or their primary thing. They've got other stuff to do. On top of that, they have families. And so you've got to really think about the big picture. I have yet to meet anyone on this campus who, in the big picture of things, didn't have the most golden of hearts. I really haven't, right?
Sure.
And as long as there's the trying, and as long as there's the, meeting me halfway, and allowing grace for me too, I've been very thankful that that's the environment we have. It's not. I've never met anyone who didn't want to do the right thing, thankfully.
So, before we pivot again, because I'm trying to honor your time, but I think truly, Cyn, in the short time that I've gotten to know you and again have conversations in person, I think that's one of your superpowers. And I think that's what helps people trust you, and that you are, again, from my perspective, delivering heavy information, policy, law, procedure, all the things for the most vulnerable, our youth, right? And again, you have this way that I truly appreciate and also admire that you do. You make it very unassuming. It's very relatable in a very humanistic way. And I do love and I do feel the grace that although you are very professional, you have high expectations, you have deliverables, but you do have grace for those with whom are really trying to do the best thing. So thank you professionally and personally.
You're so welcome.
I love that. Along those lines, as far as, again, professionally or personally, however you want to address this, what do you look for in relationships in others that you find value and you appreciate?
Yeah, I think professionally it's going to be the try. I have noticed because I've been doing this for a hot minute, right? I've worked at the institution for over 20 years. I've been doing youth protection in some way, youth programming, risk management in some way for about 17 of those years. So it's been a while, and I noticed, especially over the last several years, I can now tell when someone gets it and when they're going to need a little extra.
Is it in the eyes?
Yeah, it's in the eyes, it's in the words, it's in the body posture. It's so funny because when we changed the rule recently, I sent it out, and the folks that I knew understand why it's expanded didn't bat an eye. No. But then you have the folks who were insulted that now they have to do anything. And again, it's because they didn't know me, they didn't understand the dynamic, they didn't, but once they did, I got them, So I think I expect the try, or I want the try. Try to understand, try to get the point of the rule, try to know that this is protecting you as much as it's protecting the school and these youth, most importantly, the youth. Because it often surprises me sometimes about the questions that I get, because people are either one of two ways, I have found. They're either going to be, lock everyone down, bubble wrap everyone. That's what risk mitigation is. I'm like, no. And then I have the other folks, well, I work with 16-year-olds and they don't need any protections. And I'm like, oh, somewhere in the middle, friends, somewhere in the middle. So I think that's what I look for, the want to and the try. Try to get it, Personally, I haven't yet met someone that I didn't want to be friends with, right? I think I've met people who I'm a lot for, right? And so it's just gauging where to meet people. And that's one of my favorite puzzles in life, right? You meet people and you're not going to get along with 100% people. I mean, that's a crazy goal. But you can always respect, you can always have civility. I think is very important.
Be friendly. And
it's just, and so it's this like, I'm doing this because it's like this spectrum, right? I have a core group of really wonderful, close friends, right? And I've been so blessed by that, because I know a lot of folks don't have that. We call it the squad. There's 6 women, and can I just tell you, relationships with your women friends are powerful. And I'm so blessed by them. And then I have this other ring of friends, and then the rings just keep growing. They're not any less important. I look at it like a target. They all have a place. There's a reason for you to be, in these circles. And it's funny because I was talking to a friend of mine about this. I base those on how I can serve them. So while my job is also service, at my core is service to others. Like, I'm a service person. So a lot of my friendships are first built on someone needed help, or someone needed counseling, or someone needed something. And so I have this habit of being that human who gets the phone calls in the middle of the night because someone needs to talk, or something like that. But I love it. It's just, that's intrinsic too.
Okay. Before I want to follow up on all the things that you're just talking about, but before we do, what else can we expect from the division, from your office? Are there any topics or issues that are working their way to faculty and staff? Is there anything that we really need to be sensitive at this time, or be aware that something's coming, changing?
I love this question so much because there's a couple of layers in there. So I think it's important for folks to understand that if you want to work with youth, again, please remember that comes with extra responsibility. And before you go out there and apply for that grant and say you're going to work with youth, stop doing that. Because oftentimes people are like, oh, I didn't know I was going to have to pay a fee, or I didn't know it was going to, so they didn't build it into their budget. What I'd like the word to get out is, if you're planning on working with youth, let me know. I want to support you. I want to make you aware of the things you should be looking for in your budget when you're applying for that grant, right? What are you asking for? There's an increase over here. I can also help with support. It looks really good in a grant proposal that the University Youth Programs Office is in support of them working with youth, because I know you're going to follow all the rules. So there's that. The next thing is going to be the way that we supervise youth in our spaces is very important. And I think people tend to think, well, how do you define supervision? What does that even mean? And don't take my word for it. Go Google it. Go look it up, y'all. The number one reason in higher education specifically that schools are found negligent was for lack of supervision, appropriate supervision. And this has been many years. I don't want that to happen at our institution. So please familiarize yourself. If you're going to choose to work with youth, how are you supposed to be supervising them? Because I don't want to have a Michigan or a Penn State or, any of that happen in our spaces. They're preventable, so let's work towards that. And again, I'm not saying let's bubble wrap everybody, but there's some, again, in the middle that we need to get to. So that supervision is going to be really key. And then just educate yourselves. Honestly, that's a big trend too, because even with the folks that I train, who I think my website's very comprehensive, you got that research, you got me in front of you telling you all these things, and still they'll come back and be like, oh, I did this thing. Read the rule, y'all. It's all in black and white there. Read the rule. So educate yourselves.
It's better to prepare than have to fix
That's
and
right.
remediate and all the things.
That's right. So that's it.
So, okay, so now I want to pivot to a personal side of you. So you mentioned that you knew early on or a while back that you wanted to be in a position or have a job that made a difference. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that is upbringing, 100% upbringing. My dad was the person that, I will never forget this. We got Easter coming up real quick, and this is a memory that is just in my brain. We were at a park, and we had this big old bowl of candy. It was huge. And we were barbecuing and stuff, and there were these kids running around, and they didn't seem to be connected to a family. They were just running around and stuff. And my dad, they'd come over to the table because they saw the big old bowl of candy. And so I was about 5 or 6 years old, and the kids had come over, and my dad's giving them my candy. Squeeze me? So, and I was like, I don't know these people, you're giving them our candy, and I didn't understand. And my dad, with all the wonderful grace that he had, he looked at me and he said, when you have more than enough, give to others. Like, legitimately, that's what he told me. And it stuck so deep in my brain that it was such a good moment to go, it's not always about me. It's not always about, it's not what you can give, it's what you can share. And it's so funny because now, the love languages, I'm a gift giver. Like, I love to give and help. And it's just so funny how those little moments, it couldn't have been more than 3 minutes that we had this discussion, but it was life-changing. So it's my dad, 100% my dad.
Oh, it sounds like that was a moment that was anchored, but surely you saw that consistently and constantly, because there are many moments we have that we hold on to for whatever reason in our mind's eye. But there's something that really reinforced that because you've carried it out. And no doubt that's part of your personality, part of your environment. But it sounds as though your father was very intentional. It sounds like he had a very big heart. He was a joyful person.
He had a really rough upbringing. So my dad was a street kid. We actually discussed this. What was that? Do you remember the Library of Congress came through with that storytelling a few years
I did
back?
that, StoryCorps.
StoryCorps.
Yes.
We're in there too, telling my dad's story because, and I love that I can go find this recording because I've got it somewhere for his grandkids and great-grandkids.
Wait, when did you do it? Where did you do it?
We did it while I was still in student affairs. I forget the year. We were parked right outside Coldus. It was in that trailer right outside Coldus.
I did it in Corpus. Okay,
Yes,
nice.
I did it here, and we showed up, and I got to tell this story. So I'll give you the abridged version. My dad was abandoned. He was found in an abandoned home by an elderly couple next door. They heard a baby crying. They went to go fetch him, and they raised him till he was about 11, 12 when the elderly couple passed away. He lived with their kids for a little while, totally toxic and abusive. So he ran away at the age of 12 and lived under an underpass from the ages of 12 to 18 when he joined the Army. He took himself to school. He made friends with the janitor staff so he could take a shower in the morning, joined the football team so he could have a shower before he went back to the underpass. No one knew the wiser back then. It was the 70s, come on.
Yeah.
Right? He's a brilliant man. And so when you have someone teaching you the ropes and life and stuff who's been through what my father has been through and is still an incredibly loving father, I have you just kind of, again, it's foundational. It's in my life. I don't take what I have for granted. I don't take relationships for granted because that's what he says. When he needed somebody, he would go knock on doors if he was really hungry and people let him in. So he wants to be that, and he taught us to be that, to be there when people need you, to serve people. Yeah.
We're definitely on the road, the path to persistence, the topic of the podcast.
I was like, ooh, well, that's one of my favorite words.
Can we say more? Again, I'm not asking you to divulge anything that you don't want to, but how? What was it about him? It was his spirit. What kept that young child going?
Yeah.
What was it?
In the valley, no less. God, first and foremost, I'm going to say that.
But did he feel the presence? I mean, I want you to speak to everything.
It's a great question. He says it was hunger, it's security, seeking security. And he says that while he didn't probably recognize it then, yes, it was God directing him, keeping him safe, doing all those things. Because remember, this is 1970 something, and he's out there, 1960s, the late 60s, early 70s, and he's out there living under an underpass. I mean, that's crazy to me. And I think another thing about him is that his drive is constant. He's in his 70s now, and he still won't sit still. So, I wish I could put one thing. I don't think it's one thing. I think it's a multitude of things. I think it's faith. I think it's drive and wanting to be fed and find a home. So he built that home that he didn't have, and we benefited from that. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense to me. And what a blessing, what a gift that he gave to you all. And what a gift you are to him, because
he would absolutely say that.
Because as a parent and just again as a colleague of yours, I see your father spirit just in the way you're describing it. So how beautiful. And how you honor him is beautiful.
I love my dad. I love both my parents. My mom's wonderful. She's a sweetheart, but I am my father's daughter. I am absolutely my father's daughter. In all of it.
I think you're speaking to an audience, well, at least the present one, that we love our mothers crazy, as I like to say, and she, for me, is my queen. There's no other woman that I want to emulate more and to become. But there was something about my father who'd passed last year that I used to tell him all the time when I would see him and leave him, I love you crazy, or I miss you crazy. And and I really meant that, and he knew I meant it too.
I love you more. Mm-hmm. He's a Marvel fan, has been forever, and so I Love You 3000 was a big deal. Except for except for we're Hispanic, and so he says, I love you 3000. So it's in Spanish.
You're killing me, Cyn, you're killing me. I'm trying to keep it professional here because I appreciate the audience for allowing our conversations on the path to talk about all the important, impactful things, the professional side of people. But ultimately, and again, the whole purpose of having these conversations is to humanize our colleagues that are doing exceptional work, exceptionally important work, and to also know that there's this side to them that really informs everything they do. So you sharing this not only just really brings such joy to my heart, but it has to be the same for our audience, no doubt. So thank you.
You're so welcome.
So what do you do for your father when you want to express love for him or appreciation for something? And it could be on the regular or for something special. What do you do?
You're going to love this. I'm going to try really hard not to cry. This is for both of my parents. My mom is scrappy. I'm very much, let me tell you, my mom is scrappy. And so I do this for both of them. That's why I'm bringing it up.
I feel like we might have the same mother and father. I don't know.
I'll tell you what, maybe, because my mom has beat breast cancer. She is a triathlete. She has no fear she wanted to go zip lining, and it terrifies me. I'm afraid of heights. So this woman is nothing but a ball of power. And so I have both of these wonderful, incredible, crazy parents. But mom didn't have a great upbringing either. Dad, obviously. So they were like learning how to parent out of thin air. You know what I mean? Trying to be the best.
And you are the eldest.
I am the eldest. I have 2 younger siblings. They're both boys. So here's the deal. When you're grown, as I am, you realize something, that your parents are human. And it's mind-blowing when you realize
it really
they
is.
did the best they could. So many years ago, the realization that they're human, and then the realization that they never had birthday parties. Think about that. My dad never had that big, mom didn't have a sweet 16. Dad didn't have it, you know what I mean? So I make birthdays, Mother's Day and Father's Day, a big deal. It's a big deal. I make a theme. I get dressed up. I mean, to the point where they know, like, you might as well take the day off because we're doing something. The theme for this past set of birthdays, right? My dad's, we had a really good time, was a safari theme. So I had stuffed animals, we had cake, we do it up. I took him to, oh gosh, what is that facility called where the sloth is, just out of town? You might not could say that, but there's a really cool safari here in College Station. It's part of Texas A&M. You know what I'm talking about? Yes. So I needed to do a site visit out there. So I called up Dr. Crouch and I said, Dr. Crouch, who did I call? I called somebody over there. And I said, can he tag along? This is it's literally on his birthday. Can he tag along? See all the cool animals. It was like a kid at Christmas, right? So of course they said yes. It took all of like 30, 45 minutes, but I got to walk through the zoo with him and see these really cool kangaroos and these really cool ostriches and hear these really cool stories. And the reason to have him with me too is because I didn't have a youth group with me. I was doing a site visit, but they gave me the tour that they would give the youth.
Nice.
Right? And so I had him with me for his birthday, and there were hats. I had a safari guide t-shirt. I mean, I go all out, right? When COVID happened, I was struggling with what I was going to do. So for my mom, I converted my garage. I cleaned out the space because we had to distance, right? Because I live on my own. And so I invited her to the garage. I had plastered scenes of Paris all over the garage door. I had tea service and presents and balloons and everything. Like, it was just this little alcove of Paris. There was French music playing. So, yeah, it's a big deal. I'm really glad they were born.
Yes, that's be critical to your existence.
Like a big deal.
Oh my goodness, I love all that. I'm taking notes here. With all the joy, clearly, in your life, the love, the support, the intentionality to stay on that path, how do you replenish yourself? How do you persist? Because again, we love people, we're joyful about things, but physically and sometimes emotionally and mentally, it can be draining. So how do you persist?
Yeah, it's taken me a long time to understand that that's a need, not a maybe if I get to it self-care situation. In my 20s and most of my 30s, I was a workaholic. I mean, it was ridiculous, to the point where my boss actually sat me down one day and said, you're going to calculate all of your hours. I was working 85 to 90 hours a week. And I didn't know. I just didn't realize it. And I'm so thankful that they did that. It was the Boyles, Jason and Jennifer. Shout out. Love you guys. But if they hadn't really put that mirror up, I think I would be working my finger to the bone still. And so as I got older, I started realizing that in as much as I want to take care of others, I need to take care of myself. And so, I turned 50 this past December. And so I feel like with that came this like moment of think, oh, okay, it's okay to take care of me. So it's really funny. I am a people person, but after 5:30, 6 o'clock, I go home and I don't want to talk to no one. I don't want to see nobody. Many years back, I had a colleague of mine. We were roommates, and we were the same way. Very outgoing people person and stuff. But when we got home, people would have thought if there was a video camera in our living room, they'd have thought we hated each other because we wouldn't say 2 words for at least 2 to 3 hours. It was so funny. But we were ideal roommates because we gave each other that space. You have to be intentional with that level of care, and I've learned that, thankfully, right? So I replenish by silence and reading and going and getting my nail done or a massage or something, but intentionally. Like, you can't A lot of times people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to get a massage, and the date comes and they cancel. Don't
No.
do that. Stop doing that.
Yes.
I used to do it too. Everything else was always the priority over myself and my care. That's not fair anymore. And so you should prioritize that in as much as you would give to somebody else.
And I find that in some atmospheres, some cultures sometimes, some spaces, that people that observe you, people that are intentional with their self-care, perceive that, and sometimes unfortunately make comments that's so selfish.
Oh yeah. I remember multiple times, for some reason culturally, it was like we were glorifying working late. We were glorifying, oh, coming into work and I'm so tired. And that was the cool thing to say. I finally started saying, I don't think that's healthy and I don't think it's cool. Like I'm not disrespectful. I'm just saying I'm not going to do that. I did it. I caught myself doing it and getting wrapped up in that culture. No, it's not. It's not.
It's not honorable.
It's not honorable. It's not something to be glorified. I believe in working hard. I do. But I don't believe it should be at the detriment of your health, your mental health, your body. Like, no, not anymore. No.
As the old saying is, you have to take time to put apples in your basket so you can give those apples away, right?
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I hadn't heard that. That's great.
Well, you have a couple of sayings too that I really love myself, but that is really beautiful how you prioritize, and have you found that way? And do you find yourself, Cyn, maybe with friends, family, or even colleagues? First of all, you have to be a wonderful example to them that they can obviously see. But do you ever find yourself being called upon, that people come to you for guidance and looking for, how do I manage? Or are you ever intentional about reaching out to someone that you see is struggling?
Both. And I'm always really careful when you open conversations with people who are going through it. A colleague of mine taught this to me, and it's invaluable. Do you need a toolbox or a bucket? Right? That question up front, right? If they come to me, if I'm asking them either way, what do you need? You need to pour into something, get it all out, or do you need advice and tools to get through what you're getting through? And then based on what they answer and what they need, then we go and we figure it out together. Lots of people just need to be heard. They don't need you to fix anything. They just need to know someone's listening. And I think that's powerful. And for me, that's the easy part. I can listen. I'm a good listener, right? That's easy. And then I am, humble brag, I'm a really good hugger. I have been told that my hugs have healing powers, so there's that.
Just saying.
Just saying.
It's on your resume, right?
It should be. It really should be. But it always, if they're a hugger, I make sure that they don't leave without a hug. I have several friends who aren't huggers, so we do a little hand hug action. It's good. You meet people where they're at, right? And all advice that I give is a take it or leave it. Whatever you take as advice and you're going to implement, or if you don't take a single thing I say and do it, I'm going to love you anyway. I'm going to love you through it.
Despite
whatever it
your
is.
acceptance or not, I'm loving you from afar.
The same conversation 500 times. Okay. I'm going to love you through it.
Well, as we begin to pivot and close out, what have we not talked about, Cyn, that you really wanted to express today or share?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I don't know that I had this. Again, I've told you this is my first doing one of these things. It's been so fun, and the lights and it's been fun. But I wanted to keep an open mind. So I really don't have anything. I think we covered everything.
Well, you definitely need to be back and or have your own podcast. But as a professional, Cyn, I want to take this time to really, thank you, show appreciation for you professionally. Again, I mentioned it earlier in our talk, but the way you disseminate information, reassure people, the way you make people feel that there's trust on both sides, that grace that you connote in everything that you do, that you exhibit, but also that you do it in such a joyful manner that it's contagious. And regardless if people are receptive or not, they have to walk away with, oh, darn it, I learned something today, or darn it, I appreciate that policy after a while.
I hope so.
So those are superpowers that I'm sure you're aware. If not, you need to know that you possess those. And also, when we first had our first training together, I love receiving information from a professional such as yourself. The caliber, the information, your preparation, your knowledge, and your ability. You're so nimble because it's such an important topic. People are asking questions, people are adding on, that you made it seem quite seamless. And also for those of us that, again, like I expressed, I really appreciate policy, and I love, not because I'm challenging the presenter, but I love knowing more. And I love people sharing what they have. And again, you're flawless.
Oh my goodness.
And what a benefit and really what a true asset you are to the system, to the university, to the department, and for all of the faculty and staff and students that benefit for not only the information you provide, how you provide it, but the way you choose to do it and the way you express information is just, it's really remarkable and special.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna cry again.
No. I think
Thank you so much.
Again, you probably hear that all the time, but I think it's important that I share that with you, and I learn from you, and I just can't wait for the next training.
Yeah.
If that's weird to say.
No, that's so remarkable, because that's the goal, right? I don't want people to be afraid of compliance. You don't have to be afraid of compliance. It should be something that's a conversation, organic, and you've made my whole year.
No.
Thank you for that.
No, that should be something you hear every day, all day long. And if not, it's one of those mental notes. Put in your heart somewhere.
That's right.
But to our audience, I want to thank you for listening in today. I hope you have the opportunity to listen to this entire conversation and all of our other conversations on the path of most persistence. But like me, meeting and having the conversation with Cyn, I hope you walk away with a sense of joy and respect for those that have the responsibilities of informing policy and procedure that maybe sometimes can be dry. But as you all can clearly see and hear, there's a way to do it with joy, trust, love, and an attempt to really make everyone around us better for the good, most definitely, of our youth. Until next time, y'all have a great day. Bye.